question to try. True or false? You should perform the quick learn procedure only after replacing the entire 45 RFE transmission assembly. Stop the tape once more and discuss this as a group. The answer is false. Perform the quick learn procedure after replacing either the entire 45 RFE assembly or the transmission control module. Well, that completes our Mastertech look at the 45 RFE transmission. On next month's program, we'll feature the new engine that's utilized with the 45 RFE, the 4.7-liter V8. We'll see you then.
Hey, what's going on?
I got to replace a leaking evaporator on this Intrepid, and I don't know if I can do it in the time allowed.
Well, that's a 94.
Yeah.
Well, you know there's a revised procedure on that.
Really? There's a TSB on this? I haven't done one of these in a while.
Yeah, let's go take a look.
All right.
Okay, here it is, the revised procedure. Now, a little bit of advice here. You want to try to perform as many of the steps as you can in one area of the vehicle.
You mean it's not in the right order?
Well, don't get the wrong idea. The procedure is correct. It's just that you can save a little bit of time by reordering those steps. Here, let me show you. And then once inside the vehicle, do what you can on one side. And when you get to the other side, then...
The procedure the technician is referring to is covered in TSB 240198. It's a revised procedure for servicing the AC evaporator as well as the HVAC housing and related components on 1993 through 97 LH models. A similar revision also applies to 93 through 98 Grand Cherokees. It's detailed in TSB 240298. Compared to the old way of doing things, these new procedures have several advantages. First of all, you don't have to remove the bench seats or the instrument panel from the vehicle, so it's no longer a two-person job. And since most IP wiring connectors remain in place, there's less chance of a bad connection after assembly. The coolant doesn't need to be drained either, so you won't have to bleed the system. These advantages definitely make the procedure easier and faster. Just follow this one simple rule. Perform all the steps you can while in one area of the vehicle. Let's take a look at how it's done on a Dodge Intrepid. The first part of the procedure takes place in the engine compartment. Begin by disconnecting the battery and removing the R134A refrigerant from the system using an AC recovery unit. While the system is recovering, continue on with the procedure. Unfasten the engine air cleaner hose and air intake plenum so you can remove them later. Unfasten the harness hold down and plastic push pins that secure the engine and transmission wiring connectors to the right strut tower. On the 3.5-liter engine, you'll have to move the harness to give yourself room to access the expansion valve and to remove the air intake plenum. Now guide the air cleaner hose and air intake plenum toward the right strut tower and remove them. Instead of draining the engine coolant as you would previously, clamp the heater hoses between the engine and heater core inlet and outlet tubes. Lubricant can be used to help slide the hose clamps down. Use snap-on Mobay pliers on the clamps. If you can't remove the hoses easily after sliding the clamps down, simply cut them off flush. There's enough slack to reattach the hoses. Plug the heater core tubes to prevent antifreeze from spilling on the vehicle interior. You can use the snap-on plug set THX312 to do this. Next, undo the fasteners and remove the oval heater hose retainer and gasket from the engine side of the dash panel. By this point, the refrigerant should be fully evacuated. Shut off the valves and turn the recovery machine off. Disconnect the AC lines from the evaporator and the vacuum line as well if equipped with manual climate control. Be sure to cap the AC lines to prevent dirt or moisture from entering the refrigerant system during servicing. Do not leave any part of the system open for an extended period of time. Next, remove the push-on clamp from the stud on the wiring harness running along the dash panel. Then remove the 3 heater housing retaining nuts from the studs. At this point, we need to move inside the car to continue the procedure. As I mentioned earlier, you'll save yourself some time by doing everything you can while in one part of the car before proceeding to the next area. Let's start in the middle. If equipped with a center console, remove the shift knob, bezel, then the center console. Unbolt the rear console mounting bracket and remove the air duct from the rear heater vents. On bench seat applications, the 90-degree air duct located at the distribution duct under the instrument panel is the only thing that will need to be removed. You do not have to remove the bench seat. Next, carefully remove the instrument panel top cover. Now you can move on to the right side. Begin by removing the right end cap. Then remove the right side outlet louvers, as well as the center outlet louvers. Next, remove the kick panel and the right side A-pillar trim. Then remove the floor air duct. Disconnect the blower module and motor connectors and all other connectors in the kick panel area. Now remove all the screws on the right side that hold the lower instrument panel in place. Then remove the radio and AC control bezel by carefully prying it away from the instrument panel. Pull out the radio, unplug the connectors, and remove the radio from the car. Do the same for the heater and AC control head. Now moving on to the left side, start by removing the end cap. Then remove the left side switch bezel and the kick panel. Next, remove the A-pillar trim and all screws holding the left side of the lower IP in place. Carefully lower the bolster. Disconnect the trunk release and glove box light wiring and remove the bolster from the vehicle. Unbolt the body control module mounting bracket from the cowl and let it hang loose. Now loosen the fuse panel mounting bracket to remove tension and remove the under column air ducts. Unplug the brake lamp switch wiring connector at the bracket. Disconnect the data link connector. Remove the instrument panel ground connections and disconnect the wiring to the airbag control module. Next, remove the center duct mounting bolt located directly above the airbag control module and the airbag control module mounting bolts. There are some components near the steering column that have to be removed, including the steering column support bracket. After removing the steering column retaining bolts, you can lower the steering column to the seat. While it's not necessary to remove the column from the vehicle, it's a good idea to cover the steering wheel, column, and seats to prevent any damage to the fabric when you pull out the instrument panel. Continue on by unclipping the wiring harness running along the driver's side A-pillar and removing the bolts that hold the instrument panel to the cowl. Now pull the upper instrument panel away from the base of the windshield. Then maneuver the entire IP out and pivot the passenger side onto the passenger seat. Notice that all harnesses and gauges are still in place. Remove the airbag module and brace, and the upper two bolts and one center nut holding the heater housing to the dash panel. At this point, you can carefully roll the heater housing out of the vehicle. Just make sure you pull the drain tube from the floor. Now you can service the evaporator. Refer to the evaporator removal and installation procedure in the service manual. Be certain that the new evaporator foam insulator wrap